So next game, Pittsburgh versus New York Jets. This is another big game. This was another big game. Did you see this game and did you understand the significance of the game?
Yeah, I have a few takes on the game. First off, I like the fact they were both teams were so aggressive.
Mhm.
It was a power play game.
Yeah.
And the thing with QB playing against your old team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Performed like, bro, he's so good in my opinion. He's so good. Rogers is so good.
Who? Rogers, yeah, but he's old.
This game was one of the best games I've watched in a while. I've seen.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the best games over the weekend.
It was
Like
also
second best.
with what's his name? DK Metcalf. I expected like two touchdowns from him.
Yeah. DK Metcalf and him have, it seems they have an early connection with each other. So I think that they're gonna do a lot of things. And that's why DK left Seattle because he wanted a place where he could come and get, more uh the ball more because Jackson Smith and Jigba was taking away a lot of receptions from him. So DK got what he want. It was the top receiver in terms of yardage and receptions. He tied with Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin is also a very good receiver now that Rogers seems to be having. I mean, at least early in the season, Rogers seems to be having good connections with him. And Ben Skowronek. Ben Skowronek only caught one ball. Let's just say for right now, Charlie Austin and Calvin Austin and DK Metcalf are his guys.
And
Yeah,
also,
it was nice.
yeah,
Go
also
ahead.
Jalen Ramsey. Bro, that guy's tough.
Oh yeah, bro. You saw what happened, right? You saw why first of all, he did what he was supposed to do, Jalen Ramsey, right? But you saw why he went so hard against Garrett Wilson. So I'll tell
Yeah,
you what happened. Garrett Wilson and some other receiver, I can't remember, were double teaming him on a block, and it started like Jalen Ramsey is he considers himself like an alpha, right? So he felt very insulted and angry by that or whatever. But they're blocking him for good reason. Anyway, they started fighting and bantering, and they were bantering all game. You know what I'm saying? And so Jalen Ramsey makes that play. Just you saw it. He was sneaking up
yeah,
on him like a heat-seeking missile. As soon as Garrett touched that ball, Garrett actually dropped that ball because he didn't expect to see Jalen Ramsey down on him that quick. You know what I'm saying? It was like he was surprised to see Jalen Ramsey and he was spooked. And so, he got drilled, not only drilled, he also got, once he got drilled, he was like, oh crap. And then he dropped the ball because he had that ball caught, right? And if he had caught the ball, they would have had another first down. But look, I was impressed with the way the Jets played in general. This game was very good. And also, it was a home game. So the Jets were very hyped for the game because their old quarterback is coming and they have a new quarterback who was with that team. So basically, Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers switched teams, right?
yeah,
Justin Fields
yeah,
was with Pittsburgh last year, and then Aaron Rodgers was with the
yeah.
Jets, last year. And so the NFL did a very good thing, and that's why everybody loves the NFL. The way they schedule games, there's drama, there's a storyline, right? Aaron Rodgers went over to the Jets because it's like a revenge game for him. Even though before the game he was like, no, I still respect all the guys there. There's no problem. I don't really want it that much. I don't care about the win. It's just another game. We got to win the game because we have to win the game because it's another game. But my teammates seem to want to win it for me more than anything else, right? Yeah, right. Aaron Rodgers wanted to win this game because his split with the Jets was kind of bitter. You know what I'm saying? And also, you can kind of understand why Jets fans didn't like the experience of him because he came in there to take them up to the next level. He never got to take them to the next level because just of bad luck, right? He got injured on his first play with the Jets, which took him out for one season. When he came back, his coach was not really that good, good. The chemistry with him and Robert Saleh wasn't that good. There's a lot of things. And then the organization picked a new coach. The new coach wanted a fresh start, which made a lot of sense. But I was impressed with what the Jets did. Justin Fields, I hope he keeps playing like this throughout the season because if he does, then he would have shown that he's now matured to becoming a true number one quarterback, right? And then Bryce Hall, who also gets injured a lot, played very well. He's a very good running back. I like him. But every single time I pick him on fantasy, he gets injured. So I never pick him anymore because you'll have him for till what do you call it? And he's a very talented receiver. I mean, he's a big enough guy, 220 pounds, 6'1", 220 pounds. He runs a 4.39. Very good guy, but gets injured all the time. Now he in this game, he rushed the ball 19 times for 107 yards, and that's 5.6 carries. He was all over the place. He also caught the ball twice for 38 yards. And that's one thing I like about Brees Hall, which is why he's very high on fantasy football because he runs and catches the ball. He's a good receiving running back, which is more valuable in fantasy football. Garrett Wilson caught the ball 7 times for 95 yards and 1 touchdown. Rodgers did get sacked 4 times, but they weren't terrible sacks. The defensive line for the Jets is good. However, I did not really see their defensive backfield do much. I'm surprised. Was Sauce Gardner in this game? I don't remember him being in this game. That was kind of weird. I didn't really hear him be called. I didn't really see much from him. Maybe there's something maybe people have figured out who Sauce Gardner is and realized that he's not, or maybe he's stepping back. This towards the end of last season and this season, he hasn't really been himself, right? I didn't really even remember that he was in the game. But anyway, I like the way the Jets came in. The Jets played very well. I think that they will destroy Miami. You see, Miami, the Dolphins, if they play them, 100-0. I'm excited to watch Jets games to see how they play. And I'm also excited to watch Pittsburgh games to see how they play. I was surprised that they didn't have such a good run defense this game, and they didn't put up the rushing numbers that the Jets did. I was very surprised by that. We knew that the Jets were going to run the ball. That is their coach's style, right? Their coach he's a defensive coordinator, but he likes to run the ball, right? That's his style. But I was surprised that Pittsburgh did not prepare to stop the run. And if they don't stop the run throughout the season, that's something that's going to bite them back in the butt. They're going to have to go into shootouts to be able to do that. And they have to establish the run. I don't think in the NFL in this day and age, the NFL has changed. A few years ago, you could just go around by passing the ball, but now I think you need to have the threat of a running game, or else you're not going to be anywhere. All right. So, anything else you want to add about this game?
To me, one of my favorite receivers is DK Metcalf. Even
Yeah.
when I was in Egypt, because I dyed my hair like the NFL guys were. Yeah, so I mean, I enjoy watching him. Like even from my workout routine, I copy from him. So I still
Yeah,
say,
yeah. Yeah, you just need to be 6'4" and 230 pounds. That's all.
I
You
mean,
just got you got to add you got to eat more chicken. You go
abs-
there.
I don't mind. I don't mind.
Yeah, so you went to Egypt, yeah? Were you able to do anything else while you were at the combine there? Were you able to go visit the pyramids or see
No,
sights and see anything?
I was the only person who did not go to who did
Pyramid.
not pyramid, yeah, because
Oh
I
man.
fell. When I got there, I just had one night of rest and I played the flag football tournament. Then
Uh,
then I had like a day to recover because of my injury, so I couldn't go out.
what countries were represented there? Like, were there which countries which other African countries did you see guys from African countries? What countries were represented there?
Egypt, South Africa, they had some Kenyan guys,
Mhm,
Cameroon.
mhm.
Surprisingly, I didn't see any Ghanaian.
Yeah, that is a surprise. Maybe you would have given them Ghana must go so they can go back to Ghana.
But of both eggs.
Talking about the Giants versus the Commanders. You know what? I have a long list of things I'm going to talk about with regards to this game, but I want you to go ahead and, just comment on what you saw in this game when you watched it.
So I have a few things to say when it comes to this New York Giants game. First off, defense, they were trash. Sorry for saying that, but they were trash. Like, tell me why and how you would miss tackles and make receivers like getting yards. That's not meant to be. Like, it's as if everybody came sleeping and don't get me wrong. Yes, they made some nice plays, but most of the time they miss too many tackles. And there's a play I noticed on third and goal, second
Mhm,
quarter on
mhm.
offense. You're like 30 yards to the goal line and you chose to pass instead of making running plays.
How many yards did they have to the first down?
20 yards.
Yeah, you
That's
can't run. You can't run on third and 20 though. That's too far.
no,
It's your only option at that time is to pass the ball on third and
but
20.
he had Darius Slayton wide open on the sideline.
Oh, okay, well then that's a different thing.
Now instead of him like looking towards the left, he threw it out
Mhm.
of bounds. I'm like,
I have a question for you. Since you remember this specific play, I have a question. Was Russell under duress?
yes, but like we have Lamar. We've seen Lamar in that type of
Yeah,
situation.
but Russell's not, Russell used to be like Lamar. He's no longer like Lamar. I mean, he's still mobile, but you're kind of right because Russell is what you would call a Hall of Fame guy. He's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. Maybe not first ballot, maybe honorable mention or second ballot. I don't know if there's anything after second ballot, but any other plays you saw that you didn't like or any other criticisms you have?
I was just pissed at this play because like if he had that number 8 wide open,
Mhm.
there would have been no need for what's it called, the goal kick. Like he would have
Yeah.
scored it.
Field
Yeah,
goal. No need for a field goal.
yeah. So I think that's my take.
I'm going to start with the Giants. What they did well, and I'm going to start with what the Commanders did well and what they didn't do well. So on offense, for the Giants, they did very little well. The only real bright spots was that they were able to get Malik Neighbors into the game, involved in the game somehow, But I think that Malik would have liked to, and if you saw it, he was arguing with the coach the whole time. I think they kept on trying to get him the ball, but then what happened was the Commanders kept on double teaming him. You understand? So that now left room for Wandale Robinson, and they kept on going to Wandale Robinson on the underneath plays, right? So they would throw the big play, the mid range plays to Malik Neighbors, and then they would throw the underneath small yardage plays to Wandale Robinson. And I'll give credit to Wandale Robinson. He didn't drop any of the passes this time. He had some dropping issues last year, but it seems like he's well, at least for this first game, he didn't drop anything, right? So in the offense, the bright spots were Wandale and Malik Neighbors. Who else? Nobody else really did. Okay, yeah, the Cam Scatterboo showed, even though he ran for negative yardage. He trucked like two guys, and he was gonna be -7 yards rushing, but ended up only being like -3 yards rushing because he had to truck like three guys, and everybody when he got the ball, everybody came and was tackling him behind the line. Okay, so Cam Scatterboo. But I don't even really blame the Giants running backs because the major issue for the Giants was the O-line, and I'll come back to that. As far as the Redskins, I mean, there are a lot of good stuff. They have a good running back. They have a decent running game apparently now, or it could have just been the fact that the Giants' defense was terrible at being able to cover the run. And I'll tell you why I think that is, right? But they had a decent running game. They were able to get Deebo Samuels involved in the game. He was the star of the day for them, besides the quarterback, Jaden Daniels, who's a star anyways. And Jaden Daniels is just, keeps doing his thing. You would think that the Giants would make him pay and show him that he didn't, all that running, was going to get him in trouble. He did, however, he did get sacked 3 times. And that's one of the things I liked about the Giants. They were able to get some pressure sometimes on him, not all the time. I wanted them to get it all the time, but I'll tell you why I feel like the Giants defense wasn't able to get pressure on them all the time from what I saw on the tape. So 2 sacks were done by Brian Burns, was able to get 2 sacks, and then also Kayvon Thibodeau and Abdul Carter, the rookie, was able to get, some sacks. Abdul Carter, I thought, played fairly well for being his first game, and I think in the pros, and he looks like a natural out there. We'll see what he does against Dallas, because that's where I'll really start judging people, is how they play against Dallas. But in this game, there was not much light in terms of offensive positives for the Giants, right? So those are the 3 things: Malik Nabers, Abdul Carter on defense, Brian Burns on defense. Kayvon Thibodeau was okay, and then I would say Bobby Okereke getting 16 tackles normally would be a positive, but he was getting those tackles really deep, and that's where I'll come to the negatives of why that is. I'll explain that in a second. He was always catching up to people, running down people, because his linebacking core they weren't tackling, they weren't tackling the guys at the right positions. They were always tackling them deep, Other offensive positives for the Redskins were able to eat in the middle of the field, right? So all the mid-range passes, that's where they were killing the Giants. They were just messing them up left, right, and center. And their offensive line was able to at least absorb a lot of pressure against the Giants D line. And I'll tell you why I think that is. This is what comes down to the negatives for the Giants. So they were always able to absorb the pressure and give time to Jaden Daniels to do his thing. Now, let's come to the negatives. And the negatives for Washington mainly were they were making so many mistakes. You know what I'm saying? They had so many penalties on offense, and it was mainly offense. I wouldn't say they got too many penalties on defense. They made so many. They could have this game could have easily been 35-6. I'm telling you, could have easily been 35 or 32-6. The offense on the Redskins or the Commanders kept on getting penalties, offensive penalties, offsides, this, that, maybe missing snap counts. So I think that's just the rust from the offseason. They're not yet totally together, but imagine if they didn't have all those penalties or some callbacks on some plays or offensive pass interference. This would have been at least 30-6, an extra touchdown and maybe a field goal. You understand? So the Giants were lucky in that sense. And their top receiver, Terry McLaurin, he didn't play any games in the preseason. He was holding out to get his new contract signed, which he got. He wasn't as effective. We were able to shut him down, but I think he's just rusty. By the time the season comes up, he's going to be much better. Now let's talk to the Giants' offensive problems. The main problem that I saw on offense was their interior O-line. Their center and their guard, those guys sucked yesterday. I don't know what, this weekend. I don't know what, I have no idea what they were doing. They sucked. It was like they didn't play any preseason games. They didn't have any chemistry whatsoever. This is the same set of guys that played with themselves last year, and they did okay considering they didn't have Andrew Thomas for most of the season. And Andrew Thomas is their top. I would say he's a top offensive lineman in the league, but he's their best offensive lineman. But he's a left guard. You know what I'm saying? But the problem was coming from the interior. Between the center and the 2 guards, those guys had no freaking idea what they were doing. Russ was always getting pressure. And then remember this specifically. The Giants had Russ under center. When we say under center, that means you're right behind the center. You're not in a shotgun formation. You understand? Sometimes you see players and quarterbacks coming from a shotgun formation, right? So that means they're like a few, 5 yards back or something like that. And then the offensive line or the center snaps the ball to the quarterback. So Russ was right under center, right behind the center. This was because it was crazy, serious issue. What the hell? Every single time he snapped the ball, there was somebody in his face, right? So yeah, Russ could have done better. I'm not absorbing him of some of the issues they had. And to be honest with you, he's lucky. They're lucky that he didn't get sacked even a lot more than 2 times for the amount of, because every time he snapped the ball, Russ had like 1 minute, 1 second or 2 seconds to get rid of that ball, right? Or else they were going to hit him in the chin. You can't do that. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then if you look at it, I want to compare this to Daniel Jones, who played very well behind a decent offensive line in Indianapolis. And he was our quarterback last year, and he was complaining about the same stuff. He doesn't have any time at all. Every time he snapped the ball, people were right on top of him. You understand? So you have to give your quarterback time. So the defense, the offensive interior, I don't know what the hell those guys are doing. If I'm the coach, I'm making those guys run 10 miles for punishment. First practice. I'd be like, no, you guys, I don't even want to see you guys around. Just go ahead and run gassers right now. From now till the end of practice, just run gassers. Just run. Run. I know that that's not going to fix anything, but just to calm me down and like, I don't know what the hell those guys were doing. No communication, nothing. The center and the 2 guards, those guys have to, this loss is mainly on them. Then the next problem is the coach. I don't know what Brian Dable's doing. I don't know what his Kafka, his offensive coordinator, is doing. If you see that these guys are killing you in that space, why don't you go into shotgun and give your quarterback time to be able to see? Because you know what that shotgun thing does? It gives him enough time. You understand what I'm saying? He snaps the ball. He has maybe a half a second more or a second extra. You understand? So he has 3 seconds to survey the field and make passes, right? Then also, during the preseason, they had a lot of, success with screen passes. I didn't see one screen pass. It could be, again, that maybe because of how badly the guard and center, the interior offensive linemen were getting destroyed, that they were like, you know what? We can't do anything. We can't do a screen because they're just going to blow it up. But you know what? I know they're commanders. Their defensive line is not like spectacular. They're not scrubs, but they're not like a spectacular defense. They're not like Philly's defensive line. Do you understand? Or they're not like the Chiefs defensive line, who are studs, right? Or the Chargers defensive line, or the Broncos defensive line. They're not, but they look like they were world beaters because these interior guys didn't know what they were doing. So they were like, okay, you know what? We don't have a lot of plays. So if that's the case, put Russell in shotgun, change it up, put him in shotgun so he gets the ball. And maybe I think they did it once or twice, but still, put him in shotgun so he gets at least 3 seconds. 3 seconds to throw that ball, right? With 3 seconds, a veteran like Russ can have enough, he has enough time to process and throw the ball here or there. Now I'm hearing calls for people saying that, they should the rookie quarterback, Jackson Dart. That's the worst thing to do right now. The offensive line, that needs to be fixed. You need to get them back to where they were last year when they were playing okay. You understand? Because they weren't incredible last year, but they weren't like this, right? They were not like this. They were terrible, this Sunday. So that's one other thing. Then the next thing, with regards to the offense, let's go back to Russell real quick. Yeah, Russell needs to make better decisions, right? He knows a little bit better than that, but I can kind of understand, and we do have a sample size of seeing quarterbacks playing in this offense and being under duress 24/7. It's not good, right? You can't make really good plays with that. You have to, especially the interior. It's different if it's coming from the edges, right? Because from the edges, a quarterback can step up into the pocket to buy himself some time. Russ is not afraid of getting hit. What he doesn't want to do is get smashed in the face and destroyed every single time the ball snaps, right? Because that's more, disconcerting. Even Tom Brady never liked that. All right. So that's the negative for the offense. Now for the defense on the Giants side, yes, they couldn't tackle. That's also a coaching issue. Because if your players for the last 2 seasons, we've been complaining about the tackling of the Giants. They always, in the first 4 games of the season, seem to forget how to tackle. Also, we've had issues against run defense, right? Now, one of the problems that they had with against the run defense is the guy who usually stops it, Dexter Lawrence, was injured all throughout the preseason. Because he was injured all throughout the preseason, he didn't play at all any preseason games. So he's very tired, very rusty, and it'll take him like 2 or 3 games to get back into the groove of things, right? So we may still see this for the next 2, 3 games. Who knows, right? But it'll take Dexter Lawrence a little bit of time, not a lot of time, but a few games to get into proper football shape. But these guys knew that, and they should have. Okay, so the other guy that they brought in to stop the run, the rookie Darius Alexander, I think he was a third-round guy they brought in to stop the run. He was injured. There's an issue with injury in the Giants, and I swear to God, they start to remind me of Arsenal. Because I'm an Arsenal fan. They start to remind every day. The old Arsenal when Wenger was there. Every single day, somebody is injured for no reason. You don't know why they're injured. They're injured throughout the whole season, just like Gabriel Jesus. He gets injured every season, and then you don't know why the person he's out for the whole thing. They tend to have these injury-prone guys every once in a while that kind of messes with their whole thing, just like their left tackle, Andrew Thomas. He's always injured, and in the NFL, the best ability is availability, as they say. If you're not available to play, you can't do much, no matter how good you are. That was the reason why the run defense was very bad, was because I believe because Dexter Lawrence is like a potential Hall of Famer, to be honest with you. But because once he's fit, he can do a lot of damage. But Dexter Lawrence is a top player. Once he gets in peak physical shape, I don't think we'll have anything to worry about. However, that being said, you as the coaches, Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator, should have prepared for that, and he didn't, right? He just didn't. Then one more thing before I forget, on offense, they have to figure out how to run the ball. If you don't have balance in your offense, right, then you're a one-dimensional team and other teams know how to play you. Okay? So you need to have balance. Now, Redskins, in terms of the negatives on their defense, I didn't see much. Yes, the Giants' offensive line was just that bad. They didn't play that well. The Giants were able on defense to get good pressure on the Commanders. They, for some reason, I don't know what the game plan was. They just left the middle of the field open. Every single time Jaden Daniels wanted to convert a third down, almost every single time he wanted to convert a third down, he had the ability to pick us apart or pick the Giants apart in the middle of the field. So the middle of the field, big issue. I don't understand what the game plan was. For me right now, if I'm the owner of the Giants, I'm looking at Brian Dable and I'm going to be like, we brought you, you said Daniel Jones was the issue. We brought you a new quarterback. He's still having the same issues that Daniel Jones had, which was not being able to have time to throw the ball. The common denominator amongst those two quarterbacks is you. Then Shane Bowen, your defense was trash last year in terms of tackling. It's trash again this year in terms of tackling. You can't stop the run. What is the common denominator so far is you. So for me, all the coaches are on the hot seat. Their seats should be almost nuclear, right? The person's seat who would be hotter than theirs would be that guy in Miami, Mike McDaniel. His seat would be the only seat that would be hotter than that. Again, so all these rants I gave you, that's the fan in me talking. But I think that if we have a better performance, we don't even have to win next week, just a better performance. Like we just to see a better, like you want to see something better against the Cowboys. You're like, we know we're going to their home and they're a tough team now. Apparently they're pretty good. They're hyped. They're ready to kill everybody, beat up everybody now that they played the Eagles so hard at their home. So that should be a good game for them to rebound and play. All we want to see is a better performance. They need to score touchdowns, not all this field goal kicking, right? You score a touchdown or 2 touchdowns, and then maybe you do a couple of field goals, that puts you in winning form. You understand? They need to be able to score touchdowns. That's why we brought Russell Wilson. That's why we brought all these people, drafted all these people that we brought in. They just need to figure out that stuff. So that's my rant for the Giants. They were awful. If this happens again next week, I'm not even saying you should bench Russell Wilson. Fire the coach immediately because he's the same guy who's been coaching them for the last 4 seasons. So that's it. But the Commanders are off to a great start this season. And I think that I actually hope they make the NFC Championship again or get close to it. I just hope that we don't lose to them again because it will be very annoying. Let's talk about the Lions Packers. And there's a lot of significance to this game, and I'll explain later. What did you think about this game, the Lions versus the Packers?
I expected more from the Lions, honestly, because judging from their performance last season, they were really good. They made me love the team. But watching their performance last week I was shaking my head for them.
Yeah, I think we all expected them to play a little bit better than they did, right? But what is
more scoring points on the board?
Yeah.
They didn't perform.
Yeah, I was really disappointed about them not being able to run the ball at all. I expected that the game plan would be to establish the run because they gave up a run stopper, right, to Dallas. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the guy they gave up to Dallas was a run defender. He's a defensive lineman and he's a run stopper, right? So you expected that there would be a lot more holes to run through. And Micah Parsons is not a run stopper. He's just a pass rusher. That's his main skill, right? So I expected that the Detroit Lions would be able to run the ball on the Packers better, but their 2 running backs combined for 30 or 40 yards rushing in total, which is crazy because last year it was they would run for 180 yards each game. You know what I'm saying? Right? So I expected that they would be okay, let's rely less on the pass this game, only do short passes because Micah Parsons is going to be on our. And another funny thing, Micah Parsons didn't even play that much, right? He played quite a few snaps. I think he had a 32 or 29 snaps. You understand? When I think if he played the full game, the full defensive snaps, he would have done a lot more because they were trying to do a pitch count because he has a little lower back issue. You understand? Yeah, but apparently that thing didn't affect him that much. And also he was not in peak. He didn't play anything. He didn't play in the preseason, even though he was staying fit. He didn't play in the preseason. So he's not in football shape. So they were putting him on a subtle pitch count. And he still went out there and had 2 sacks. So he comes in from Dallas and immediately he starts making an effect. And he had, 2 sacks immediately, right? Just doing that in the first game has justified the money that they spent on him, right? And the picks they gave away for him. So for Detroit, I thought Detroit was going to have a much more run heavy game because I thought that was where the weakness of the Packers would be, but apparently they didn't get anything. I mean, their highest rusher was David Drummond, who ran for 25 yards and averaged 2.3 yards per carry. Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a Pro Bowler, only ran for 19 yards at 2.1, right? So they weren't able to get the running game going at all. And even the passing game was okay. And I mean, Goff was very efficient with the ball, except because of Micah Parsons, he threw a pick. So there's a little thing where Micah is just about to get him, and then he throws the ball, and then one of the safeties from the Packers comes in and picks the ball, grabs an interception in the last second. So, I mean, Micah Parsons has a heavy effect on this team, and it already shows because and now I put the Green Bay Packers on the same level, somewhat the same level, not exactly the same level, but where Detroit was last year, that's kind of where I'm going to put them. But this is game 1. Let's see how they do throughout the rest of the season. Detroit also, the reason why they look a little rusty, even though they have all the same guys there, okay? All the same people are still there from last year. Losing that, again, in my prediction, I said that would force them to take a step back because they have, even though one of the guys is in-house or both guys might be in-house, I'm not sure. in-house hires, right? They are new, right? Sort of new to calling plays, right? So I think that Detroit is going to take somewhat of a backslide this year. I don't think they'll win the NFC North Conference. They still can, but I don't think they will. However, I still think that they'll go to the playoffs. I don't see that as an issue. But the NFC North is going to be a very tough conference. And if you even see how the Bears and the Vikings played, you know that they're all going to play each other very, very hard. So that's what it is. In addition, as well, Penei Sewell of the Detroit Lions was getting beat severally yesterday by Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons said something. He said, "Yeah, you and I are going to be rivals from now on because I'm going to be coming after you week in, week out." He told him that. And that's the truth because Penei Sewell is one of the top linemen in the NFL, and they're in the same conference and they play each other twice. Okay. So that's going to be a fun rivalry to see. So that one I like. As far as the receivers on the Packers side, yeah, they didn't do so much. They ran the ball more effectively. They had Josh Jacobs. He ran for 66 yards and 1 touchdown. It was pretty effective day. Even though there were no breakout runs, they kept the game very strongly. But I think that the Packers defense kept them, gave them the short, so when you have when you cause turnovers, the Packers, can capitalize on it. So I think that the complement from the way the defense played to the offense playing really helped the Packers just capitalize on certain field positions. You understand? So yeah, Packers look good, and I think that the Detroit Lions will start to figure out what they are now this season, or what their situation is this season as the season progresses. I'm not going to panic with them because they have a very good coach, and I trust Dan Campbell. He'll figure stuff out. The second time they play the Packers, will be a much tougher match than this one, right? Or it could be a blowout. Who knows? Any other things you want to point out there?
No, I think the next time they'll play each other, I'll pick the Detroit Lions
You
to,
pick Detroit? Why?
because I think as an athlete, I always feel like, oh, the first game is just like, oh, let's see what can happen. Let's try new things. It's our first game. Second game, hoping the Lions will like put up more points and passes play, fake run play. Like,
All right, so let's go to the next matchup. Let's see. Baltimore Ravens versus the Bills. This was the best game of this weekend. What did you think about this game? What did
first
you
off,
like and what did you dislike?
I'll give it
And
to
who would you yell at
nobody,
for
to be
messing
honest.
up?
Derrick Henry. I like the Bills because of the QB George Allen. He wears number 17, and
Yeah.
number 7 is my number for life.
Oh, are you
So,
serious?
yep. So, start of the game, I like the way Brandon, number 29, returned the ball. Like he gained so much he had, and I think that boosted their momentum for the game. And I knew Bills were going to win when they had the first touchdown because on my own end, I was like, you know what? Whosoever scores first wins the game. That's how I was watching the game.
Mhm.
And Bills scored, and it's done. But along the line, like they were now losing. The score was like 40-25. I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? Is George gonna give up?
That was in the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah. Then he now surprised us with like 394 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, rushing touchdown. This guy's the best. Like his mentality is elite. And James Cook he did a good job too.
James Cook, right?
He ran some aggressive balls with him.
Yeah.
That's for the Bills. And for the Ravens, what's his name? Lamar Jackson's making defenders miss, like making some unbelievable.
He did more than make defenders miss, man. That run he did, man, was like Houdini like. Come on, did you see that thing?
He's
He
dramatic.
was deep, was like 10 yards back almost, and
Almost
he
like,
made like 4 guys miss.
now that's crazy.
And he was surrounded, completely surrounded.
Yeah, I think everyone showed up. Jay Flowers showed up. Derrick Henry. I sometimes I wonder how a big man like that moves so quick. Like,
And he's 31 years old. He's 31 years old in the league, right? If you're 31 at running back, you start to really, really decline. But Derek doesn't care about that crap.
Jay Flowers made some great catches.
Zay Flowers, right?
Yeah, there was a play he scored. He made some nice, like he ran some good routes, made himself open, used the blockers to his advantage, and he made some good plays, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
both teams were on fire. I have no wrongs for them.
Yeah, that was an incredible game to watch. I stopped watching, honestly, when it was 40-25 in the fourth quarter, because I was like, whatever. The Bills
Yeah,
don't have to kill themselves to win this game. It's the first game of the season. Maybe they'll just pack it up and put in like a rookie. But no, no, no. This meant a lot to them. They were like, no, we're not gonna just let it be like that, man. Yeah, so you know what's funny? The Derrick Henry fumble, that rarely ever happens. Okay. He never fumbles the ball.
that's as
Rarely,
well.
but eh?
I was surprised too. Like he
Yeah, yeah,
never
yeah.
had.
He rarely ever fumbles the ball. I mean, I can guarantee you he doesn't fumble that ball. He probably would have ran for 200 yards. Period. They just were. I think what happened was Ed Oliver made some key sacks, and then what he did in this thing was he knew that Derek was going to run him over, and there was no stopping Derek. The only way you can stop Derek is when Derek is trying to stiff arm you, punch the ball out.
Yep.
So, and if you saw that play, there were already three players surrounding Derek, and he was going to bulldoze them over anyways. And then what ended up happening was, as soon as Ed Oliver saw the opportunity, he was like, "Look, I'm just going to punch this ball out." So he punched the ball out, and then that was a fumble. And then obviously the Bills got a lifeline through that, right? So look, I would, yeah, blame Derrick Henry was a slip up in terms of a mental slip up, but he never does that, right? He just never does that. It's not his style. He's incredibly secure with him and Saquon Barkley and and Jonathan Taylor. That's why those guys are top running backs. They don't ever fumble. Christian McCaffrey. So it was just an odd situation and just a lapse in judgment. Next time he won't do that, right? I can guarantee you next time these guys see each other, Derrick Henry's going to want his revenge. He's going to want his revenge. So yeah, there was and Derrick ran for 169 yards. The Bills were not stopping him, and we've noticed that every single time Derrick plays the Bills, right? Every single time he plays the Bills, the guy is always running up and down the place.
Wait,
It's like they didn't fix that problem at all from last year. Say
the
again?
way he holds the ball first, it's very scary if I'm a defender. Like I will even go close to him. Like on his
Yeah,
face.
I mean, that's why people have problems. He's been like that since high school. He's been a dominant player like that since high school. It's crazy. So unfortunately, that fumble started creating a momentum, which now allowed the Bills and Josh Allen to come up and basically have a comeback out of nowhere. You understand? Well, not entirely out of nowhere, but it allowed them to have the comeback that they had. And you know what's even funny? The Ravens could not really get a lot of pressure on Josh Allen, right? He always had enough time to escape the pocket if he needed to, or flick it out to somebody. If you look at it, Josh had about 4 seconds on average each time he was passing the ball, right? I think the Bills were actually able to get more pressure on Lamar Jackson than they were, than the Ravens D line, which is better than the Bills D line, were able to get, on Josh Allen. So, and Lamar, the reason why pressure doesn't work the same with him is he just escapes it much easier. Say, AKA the play that he did, I think it was in the second or third quarter, where he just juked past, he was like a Houdini. He got past like, four guys who were surrounding him and still made a positive yardage and got a first down off of like, third and long or second and long or whatever. And I want to give a shout out to Zay Flowers. Even I want to give a shout out to DeAndre Hopkins, because DeAndre Hopkins shows that, even though he's old, he's still got a
Ooh,
few moves. I got to
that one.
give a shout out to him. Yeah, I mean, they weren't able to get Rashad Bateman involved in the game as much. Sometimes some teams, will cover a certain player a lot better, or the timing doesn't allow you to get to that player as well. But yeah, Zay Flowers on point. I like the fact, D Hop did that one arm catch. That was very sweet, very vintage D Hop. That's very vintage. Now on the Bills side, man, I got to give credit to this sophomore receiver, Keon Coleman. I think he's going to have a pretty good year. I predict he will at least have 800 yards, 900 yards receiving. He seems to be a key guy that Josh Allen is going to is going to count on a lot, right? And if you look at him, his footwork, his mechanics, his ability to get open, not the fastest guy, but he's a big body receiver, and he can break away when he needs to. I think he's going to be a very good guy. Look for him to get passes in the middle, in the end zone, like he did today. I like Keon, and then Khalil Shakir will always eat as a slot receiver. You know what I'm saying? Both of them will play slot, but I like what I'm seeing from the Bills receiving core. They seem to have things figured out, and they have two very good tight ends, Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. They have two very good tight ends, and I like what I saw from them. And of course, Cooks didn't rush for a lot of yards, but he had effective running plays and he scored a touchdown. It's difficult to run against except if you're the Eagles, it's difficult to run against the Ravens defensive line. So you got to have a really good thing. And again, look, I'm going to give the most credit to the Bills offensive line. Again, I was saying to you that these guys were not able to get pressure on Josh Allen the way they should have, right? Yeah, they might have been able to stop. I would say most of the things they did were they were able to stop his advancement in terms of passing, in terms of his ability to complete passes, but they were not able to get a lot of pressure on him. You understand? When they did get pressure, it would be after 4 seconds, right? Which would then have been like they had such good coverage that now there's enough time for one defensive lineman from the Ravens to start putting pressure on Josh, and Josh would feel that pressure and just move, right? So the Bills have a very good pass blocking scheme. Very, very
So
good pass blocking scheme.
you compared the Bills O line to the Chargers.
It's early to say, but I mean, they looked kind of,
I mean,
they look kind of similar.
from
They
last
look
game,
kind of similar. Yeah, they look kind of similar. I agree. Yeah, they look kind of similar. That same time, like they were able to give Josh Allen sometimes 5 seconds. Same thing with the Chargers QB. They were able to give him a lot of time. That's the Chargers O line. So they were able to absorb a lot of the pressure that the Kansas City was giving. But on like Kansas City side, Kansas City was Mahomes was running all over the place every single time. You know what I mean? Even though he had about 3 seconds, on average, but he still had to scramble quite a little bit. All right, so that's the Bills. Fantastic game. I unfortunately didn't see all of it. I was one of the games I actually sat down and watched. But after it was 40-25, I was like, yeah, you know what? Let me go do something else. I have to start writing my script up. I have to start prepping for tomorrow, all that stuff. So I thought the game was going to be over and I'd just see some highlights, but And then Joey Bosa, the new acquisition for the Buffalo defense, he made his presence known. He had a couple of key plays in the game, and I was impressed with them. And look, it's unfortunate that the Ravens lost this game. They should have won it. The football gods are not kind. That game was the last game that was going to be held in the Bills stadium. I think they're moving to a new stadium, right? That's one of the deals, because there was some rumor a couple of years ago that the Bills were going to leave Buffalo, right? But I think they had a new stadium deal, and they've obviously elected, agreed to stay. So now they're going to move to a new stadium, and I think this was the last game or one of the last games they were going to have in this stadium. So it was a significant game for them to try to win. That's probably why they played so hard. You understand? Because they didn't want to leave the stadium with a loss. And so this is where luck and talent meet. And then also the football gods also bless you. You understand what I'm saying? So the Bills got it done by 1 point, and a win is a win. You move on. And also for the Ravens, I would say forget this game, move on to the next one. This game doesn't matter that much. Yes, it's a loss, but doesn't matter that much. You have to just clear your head and move on to the next one. Don't fumble anymore. So any team that meets the Ravens now will feel will feel Derrick Henry's wrath. With the way he's starting, I feel like he might run for 2,000 yards, barring any injuries. So anyway, let's move on to another game that was of significance. This was a Monday game, which was yesterday. It was I had to watch it, throughout the night. Some of it, I saw some of it throughout the night, and I watched the highlights. And this was a very good game. The Vikings versus the Bears. Do you have any comments on it before I say anything? Actually, there's some things I want to point out. Key thing in this game is this is the first game the former Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson is playing as head coach of the Bears. And then, they have a first round pick from last year, Caleb Williams. So that the key thing here is Caleb, they want to see how well he has improved since the offseason. And then also, this is the first game for JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy was drafted last year in the first round as well, along with Caleb Williams by the Vikings. And he got injured in last year's preseason and he was out for the season, which then allowed Seattle's quarterback now, Sam Darnold, to come and have a great season. And since Sam Darnold had a great season last year, it now there was a lot of pressure on JJ McCarthy to prove why he was what do you call it, a first round pick, right? Because the truth is there were a lot of questions. A lot of people said it didn't make sense to draft JJ McCarthy in round 1. It made sense to draft him in early round 2, right? Because he didn't have a lot of football under his belt, even while he was at Michigan, because he won the national championship with the Chargers coach, Jim Harbaugh, in his last year at Michigan. So there were a lot of questions. Is he as good as Sam Darnold? Why did the Vikings trade Sam Darnold? All those questions were up into this game. And so that is the background for this game. So you watched the game. Did you like what you saw? What did you dislike? What did you like? And how do you see each team?
So I liked for the Vikings. I didn't expect them to turn up like that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch the full game, but I saw his performance. The QB was actually, he stood up for himself. He made some incredible plays. He had 13 completed passes out of 20 for 143 yards, which was pretty impressive. 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, 1 interception. I mean, you can call that a fake game on his hands. He tried.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'll agree with you on that. I think he played well. What do you think about the even though they lost by, I think, is it 3 points or 4 points? Yeah, I believe it's 4. What was the final score? Final score was, but yeah, 3 points. Yeah. So even though they lost, what do you think about the Bears and how they looked?
I expected more from him, like
From Caleb? Really? What did you expect?
I watched some of his practice, and I saw him make some good plays, good calls from the offensive coach. Like they didn't show up. Like he didn't show up. Like
You think he didn't show up?
to me, I expected more. Like I said,
What did you expect of, like, what did you do?
in the game, that's what I'm trying to say.
You expected him to win the game because, okay, I understand. Okay. Here's why I disagree with you on that entirely. Not entirely, but somewhat, right? The better team is actually the Vikings on paper. The fact that this game was this close is actually a knock on them to a certain degree. But it's not entirely a knock because this was JJ McCarthy's first game, actual professional game, minus the preseason games. You understand? This is his actual first game, as a professional. Again, minus the preseason games. The defense of the Vikings are very good because they have a great defensive coordinator. He was a former head coach for the Miami Dolphins, Brian Flores. he has made this defense a top 5 defense in the league. They are able, like all of last year, they were able to shut down teams, beat up teams. You understand what I'm saying? Shut down
Yeah.
quarterbacks, and that made them get I think they had 13 wins last year. You know what I'm saying? And that's a strong feat for a team. So the thing about it is their head coach McDonald is a very good quarterback coach, right? So everybody was expecting McCarthy to play, a little bit better. And it was good that McCarthy came back and was like, nope. And you know what the funny thing is? McCarthy is actually from Chicago. So all his family are Chicago Bears fans. So he came in there. He had a lot to prove in that sense. JJ McCarthy grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. So, like, he grew up a Bears fan. His whole family are Bears fans. And he now comes back home as a Viking. And so he was playing in front of his family. And he was like, you know what? I can't go out like this. I ain't no bitch. I can't go out like this. I gotta make sure. So, anyways, the Vikings have a better defense on paper and also in practice. However, that being said, I think that from what I've seen, the Bears had the home field advantage and it was a winnable game, and they were actually leading most of the game. But that is not indicative of saying that Caleb didn't do anything good. Because if you saw that, the defense could barely contain this guy in terms of his scrambling ability and his ability to make plays off the cuff. However, I mean, in during the later halves, the defense made adjustments that kind of tempered down some of his skill set. You understand what I'm saying? And stopped him from making completions at key times. But all throughout the game, there was like a run where the blitzing linebacker, number 51, I can't remember what his name was, he had Caleb dead to rights. He was going to kill this guy, right? He had him dead to rights, right? And then immediately Caleb saw this guy coming in through the line and just scrambled. Every single time they put pressure on Caleb, right? And Caleb had about 3 seconds to pass the ball. So it wasn't like he was, but with blitzes, maybe he had like 2 seconds. Every single time he felt pressure, he just ran out and they rarely ever got him. And I'm trying to pull up the stats now to see how many sacks they had on him. They did get him on sacks, but they didn't have as many sacks as they should have with the amount of pressure they put on him because he's like Lamar. He's an escape artist. You understand? They had 2 sacks on Caleb Williams, okay? Those 2 sacks should have been like 5 sacks because they had him dead to rights on some of those blitzes, right? And the kid, and that's what like Brian Flores likes doing, right? In his defenses, he likes blitzing people. He likes using exotic blitzes, right? And he's very smart about how he uses it. And they had him dead to rights. And the guy just escaped those things. They couldn't get him. Even JJ McCarthy, funny enough, I didn't realize how mobile JJ McCarthy was. Yeah, they got three sacks on him, but the truth was he escaped most of those 3 sacks, right? He's also a bit of an escape artist as well. I mean, looking at these guys, I think JJ probably runs like a 4.5, 4.6, but Caleb is definitely a pure 4.4 runner. Pure 4.4. Just from the eye test. If you look at it, look at the blitz where that number 51, he's a linebacker from the Vikings, right? He has him dead to rights. He's almost got him. Caleb sees this guy and he's like, oh, I gotta run. Runs for like 12 yards and then gets the first down. And he was doing that all night, right? But I think what happened is I think they started to spy him, contain him in the later thing and make adjustments. And then also, they already had a lock on a lot of his receivers, even though some of his receivers made pretty good plays like Olamide Zacchaeus, Romo Dunze. They made pretty good plays. Romo Dunze got the touchdown. And DJ Moore, they made pretty good plays, but the defense was still able to shut him down towards the latter part of the season. Now, with regards to JJ and his thing, he was a bit rusty and a bit tense in the beginning. I didn't think he played that bad, to be honest. And if you look at the numbers, 13 of 20 is really not bad. Yeah, the turnover he had, whatever. Like, it's his first game in the pros. Sometimes you'll make mistakes. I'm surprised he didn't throw more picks than this. I think that as the season goes on, he's going to get more comfortable, and he's not going to face – the Bears actually have a fairly good defense. right? They have a pretty good defense. They also have players on that defense. This is just why the Bears, even though they don't make the playoffs, they're going to be very close there. They're going to probably have, they could easily have 9 wins. These Bears could easily have 9 wins. Even last year, if not for their coordinators not being that good, they could easily have 5 wins. Right. So Blake Cashman was number 51, and he I think he runs like a 4.6. And Caleb Williams was able to dust him every time he blitzed. Just get out of there. So I think that Caleb played fairly well. Could he have played better? Yeah, but I mean, as time goes on, he's also learning a new offense, right? I think that by the third game, he should be pretty good. I think JJ McCarthy, you'll see him improve game on to game on. And I like the fact that he's a winner. He did not want to give up. You understand what I'm saying? He didn't. He was like, no, not in my hometown. I'm from Chicago. I'm not going to lose to these guys. I'm going to do what Aaron Rodgers did and buy shares in the Chicago Bears where I own them every time I play them. So that's what he now did. he now said he said no, I can't lose, and he helped will the guys back. He had some pretty good plays from ever reliable Justin Jefferson. He only caught the ball 4 times for 44 yards, but he made a key touchdown reception at the end of the game. Aaron Jones, also the running back, had a pretty good game. In terms of being a good pass catcher. He got 3 receptions for 44 yards and a touchdown. So, even though JJ McCarthy was a bit shaky in the beginning, I think that was just early jitters. He got more comfortable. As he got more comfortable, he started to figure out the game a little bit more. And then he now said, you know what? I'm not losing this game. We're going to go out there and win. We are a better team than these guys. And they are. When they do the flip side and the Bears come, even though I think the game will still be close, I still think that the Vikings will beat them because the Vikings are a better team, both on offense and defense, right?
I would love to see their next matchup. I can't wait to see
Yeah. Their next matchup, look, it's gonna be fireworks for all the teams in the NFC North. I think the big dog right now in the NFC North, to me, because of Micah Parsons' acquisition, is the Packers. But they can easily be beaten by any team in the North if they take their eyes off the ball. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I expect a win from the Bears
next game, which is true. I don't know which game they play next. Hold on, they're playing the Lions next. Now they're not going to win that game.
Oh, they will.
It'll be close. It will be close, but they're not going to win. It'll be close, but they're not going to win. I'll tell you the game they might win. The 2 games they might. So they have the Cowboys in week 3 and the Raiders in week 4 and the Commanders in week 5. I feel like all those games and the Saints in week 6. You know what? Let me say this. They can win the Lions game, but it's at Detroit. And Detroit is feeling sour now that they lost to the Packers. They're not going to want to lose another game. But I'll tell you what, Caleb will play well because I like what I saw today. I don't care what anybody says. I like what I saw in terms of his style of play, how he was running the offense. Yeah, there's some things he needs to work on. He still bails a little too early for me, but I feel like he bailed because he was feeling a lot of pressure from the blitzes all the time. So anytime he felt any little pressure, he just moved. But he made those positive yards. I'm sure Ben Johnson will talk to him about that stuff, during practice and say, hey, don't bail on this play. This receiver is open and that receiver is open, and we can make more out of that as opposed to you bailing. But I believe that they can beat the Cowboys. I hope they beat the Cowboys 100-0. I hate the Cowboys as an NFC East rival. And then I think they can beat the Raiders, even though the Raiders look pretty good versus the Patriots. I think that they can beat the Raiders. And then the Commanders. Funny enough, if the Commanders played the way they played, the Bears will beat them for sure. The Bears are a serious team, unlike the Giants. I don't know what the hell the Giants are doing. The Bears look like a serious team. If the Commanders don't fix those penalty problems by the time they play the Bears, they might lose. I mean, I don't care what miracles Jaden Daniels does. They could lose that game. The Saints, they can beat the Saints. Even though the Saints look competent, they can beat the Saints. Ravens, you're not going to beat the Ravens. Bengals, winnable game. Giants, very winnable game. Vikings, I think what week is this? Week 10, they play the Vikings again at Minnesota. Home team, I usually give the win to the home team in that regard. No matter how it comes, it can come from 3 points, 1 point, it doesn't matter. I would usually give the home team the win in that regard. But it's the NFC North, it's a rivalry, anything can happen, you understand? So Steelers, they can upset the Steelers. They have the Eagles in week 12. They can beat the Browns in week 14, and they can beat the 49ers in week 15, and then they have the Lions in week 16. Okay? So yeah, that's what it is. I think the Bears, they can easily win 7 to 8 games. It's between 7 to 9 games this season. So there's that game. All right, we'll breeze through these other games because they weren't as big. I think the only big thing in them was major news I want to comment on was the Houston Texans versus Los Angeles Rams. I think I talked about this yesterday briefly. Matthew Stafford, okay, the Rams beat the Texans 14-9. And all the Texans weren't able to score at all. There's still an issue with the new offensive coordinator in that and CJ Stroud and being able to win that. I like Nick Chubb came back and he was running the ball pretty well. So that was nice for the Texans. They should probably try to focus on running a little bit more in their next game. But Matthew Stafford threw for 245 yards and 1 touchdown. And he now has passed for a career 6,054 career passing yards, which makes him the number 10 highest passing. He's number 10 in most passing yards thrown in the NFL ever. Okay. That's why he's going to be a Hall of Famer, specifically because of that. And then just below him is my boy Eli Manning, who was the forever Giants quarterback. And just above him is Dan Marino at number 9 with 61,361 total passing yards for his career. But I think that Matthew Stafford will pass that up by the end of the year if he stays healthy. If he doesn't stay healthy, I don't know how he can do that. But if he stays healthy, he will beat Dan Marino and take the number 9 place. And Lord knows whether if he plays for another year, he will pass Matt Ryan. Aaron Rodgers is number 7, and he's still playing. By the end of this year, he will pass Phillip Rivers. In fact, in the next 3 games, Aaron Rodgers will pass Phillip Rivers and go to number 6 most career passing yards in the NFL. Number 1 is obviously Tom Brady with 89,214. And then Drew Brees is number 2. Eli Manning and Peyton Manning are both there. Eli Manning is number 3. Peyton Manning is number 11. And one day, Eli Manning, I think, will be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe not a first ballot guy. I don't think that's going to happen anymore, but I hope he gets there eventually. But anyway, there was no real significance to this game. The Rams look pretty good on defense. Puka Nacua is still killing it as usual. And then Matthew Stafford looks good, and his back doesn't look like it's hurting him at all. Tennessee Titans, man. So Tennessee Titans lost to the Broncos, and that was a very close game. The main issue I had with that game was the Broncos offense. They just, I don't know what the heck they were doing there. But I was happy with the way Cam Ward played, even though he was getting pressured left, right, and center. The Broncos defense is a really good defense, and I think they're going to be trendsetters for this year. I think so. That game was played in Tennessee, 20-12. Yeah, like I said, the Broncos offense was abysmal, or not up to the level that I expected. And Cam Ward just tried not to get killed. He has some potential. And our guy, Chimere Dike, returned a punt for, I think, almost 71 yards. He almost scored a touchdown. So I think he's going to be pretty good for the Titans this year. That game was 20-12. It was more of a defensive fight. And I liked the Broncos defense. RJ Harvey looks like a real good running back. So we'll look for more of that this year as we go. So Jazzy, thanks for coming through to Sideline, and I know that you're going to be a guest regularly for us to give your analysis as to whichever games we will. I think next time we'll do a shorter amount of games and just focus on the big games and talk briefly about the smaller ones so that we don't overshoot our time, which our producer has said several times. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Which game are you looking forward to?
I really want to focus on the Bills, New York Giants, the Ravens, Titans. Funny enough, I want to, yeah, I want to watch
You want to watch those games. You want to watch more of those games. Okay, well, that's good. We'll talk about those teams often enough that you'll get a chance to either vent on how they're playing or praise their play, you know? So I think that a lot of them that you'll be able to praise their play. So hey, look, it's been a good talk with you on Sideline NFL Edition. And yeah, we'll see you again a lot more. Okay. Thanks for coming through. And you have a good one and enjoy flag football. Sometime we'll talk more about your flag football stuff. Okay.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Flag football.
Sure.
Okay. Good stuff, man. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you.
All right. That's it for us in Sideline. I'll see you guys next week. Okay. And I hope you enjoyed the NFL games this weekend.